Hi, this is Eric Sailors from Expressive Solutions. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to create data rings in a prototype app. To explain what I mean, let's take a look at a couple of screenshots. Here on the left, you see an image of the current release version for my data collection app, Percentally Pro 2. Here we have data that has been collected from a given session of speech and language therapy, and it's represented in a relatively simple table view. I want to take this data and represent it in a more visual way, and that's what you see over here in the right image, and this is a screenshot from the completed prototype app that we're going to create. You see that there are these three rings, and the key point or the key feature is really the orange ring that goes around in a circle, and it indicates the percentage accuracy for the data that was collected, whether it was independent, prompted, or total. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started by creating a new Xcode project. So I'm going to start a new project, and by the way, this is in Xcode 7.1 using Swift 2. So let's start with a single view application. I'm just going to adjust the window here real quick. Okay. So, single view application, and we're going to call this data rings. We're using Swift, and it's going to be a universal app, and none of these boxes are selected here at the bottom. So let's create this, just going to save to my desktop, and we're going to start off in the storyboard. This is where we're going to set up our views. And just to give us a little bit more room, let's collapse this. And then I'm going to start with a table view. Let's make this the entire size of the scene. And then we're going to add some constraints to all four edges here. All right, now let's go to adding a prototype cell. So we're going to have one prototype cell where we will design our views. And I'm going to make this a grouped table view just because I think it looks a little bit nicer, at least for this prototype app. All right, with this cell here, we are going to need a cell identifier, and I'm going to actually grab an identifier that I've already typed, and I'm going to actually be copying and from an existing project and pasting it over here, which I'll do throughout the demo just to kind of speed things up a little bit. So we have a ring table view cell identifier, and we're also going to want to change the height of this prototype or this table view cell. So let's go, and actually we're going to have to select the whole entire table view, and then we're going to make the row height 132. Alright, so from here, let's select the cell again, and we're actually going to add a collection view. Not this cell, but a whole entire collection view. And we're going to make this the size of our table view cell. The reason why we're using a collection view is because we're going to want more than one of those rings, and this is really going to be the best way to do it. All right, I'm also going to add some constraints here. Similar to the table view, I'm going to add 4 constraints to the edges of our container here. Okay, so now that we got those, I see the collection view cell is kind of small here. So I'm going to make that bigger. And let's actually do this. I have the collection view now selected, and I want the cell size width to be 100 and the height to also be 100. Let's just check what I did before. I'm looking at a screen with the other project. So let's see. Okay. You know what? We actually want this a little bit bigger because the actual ring size is going to be 100 by 100. So let's go back and change the width to 122 and the height to 132. Okay, that's going to be a lot better. All right, so the other thing is that we're not going to need all this spacing here. So I'm going to change the minimum spacing to 0. And then within our prototype cell, what we can do is we can add our reuse identifier. So let's grab that and paste it in. So this is going to be ring collection view cell. And we need these identifiers in order to run our app really without crashing when we want to access data source methods in our view controller. Okay, so now that that's set up, let's fill out this view here in the collection view cell. So I want a UI view, and I'm going to use this in order to create the ring that we want. And we want this to be 100 by 100. And we'll just put it like so for now. Okay, we also want labels. These are going to display the various pieces of data that we want to show. All right, we need 3 different labels, and the first label is just going to be for the numbers. The number correct out of the total number. Our next label is going to be for percentage accuracy. And then the last label is going to be our format, whether this is independent, prompted, or total. All right, so I'm just going to make these a little wider and center them. Okay. And then let's move this down a little bit, like so, and we will center these here. Okay, so with that, we are going to need to add some classes. This is where we're going to write our code, and then we're also going to connect some of these elements to our code. Okay, so let's start with command N to create a new file. This will be a Cocoa Touch class, and we can start off with, how about we start off with the UI view. We're going to call this the ring view. Alright, now let's create another new file, Cocoa Touch class again, and this will be for the collection view cell. We'll call this the ring collection view cell. Okay, and then let's go ahead and just do one more here where I'll create another view controller just so it goes with our naming convention with the rings here. So let's call this ring view controller, and this will be our main view controller, and so we'll want to connect this to our storyboard file here. So if we have the view controller, I just selected the view controller button here in the scene, then I need to go up here and change this to the ring view controller. Alright, so then I don't need this view controller class anymore. I'm just going to delete that, and now we're all set up with the ring view controller. Okay, we need to connect some other things too. But before we do that, just while I'm thinking about it, I'd like to embed this view controller in a navigation controller, just because I like having the navigation bar up at the top, and I think it looks nicer and it'll go kind of more with the look of the Percentally Pro 2 app. Okay, so let's go to Editor and then embed in navigation controller. And we may as well change the title here. We'll just call it Data Rings. And now we need to connect some other things here. So let's start off by connecting the view to the ring view. And then our collection view, actually collection view cell, is going to be connected to the ring collection view cell. Alright. So now let's try going back to our ring view, and we will open up the assistant editor again. We're going to go to the ring collection view cell, and here is where we are going to connect our ring view as well as some of these other elements. These are all part of our ring collection view cell. So I'm going to control drag here, and we're going to call this our ring view. And so now that's connected. Let's connect our three labels here. So let's call this one our raw data label, because this is just our number correct out of number total. And then we have our percentage label, and a format label. Alright, so we have everything connected to our ring collection view cell. That's good. We'll be able to access these later on when we start writing code in our view controller class. Okay, so from here, I think what we can do then is now I think we're ready to write some code in our ring view. Okay, so let's go to our ring view class, and we're going to add a couple of properties. Okay, so first off, we're going to have a background ring layer, which will be a light gray color, and this is going to be a CA shape layer. We're also going to have the orange ring, which we're going to call the ring layer, which is also a CA shape layer. And we need to actually put the exclamation point here at the end of CA shape layer for these two properties. Okay, we're going to need a couple other properties too. Alright, so we're going to need a property that is a float value, and it's going to represent the percentage accuracy of our data. So let's call that accuracy, and we're going to explicitly say this is a CG float, and then we're going to set an initial value. So let's say we want 67% accuracy represented. So we just write 0.67. Okay, and then we're going to need another property, and this is going to be for the width of our line. That will be the width of the ring that's going around in a circle. So this will also be a CG float type, and we're going to start off with just saying that it will be 6.0. Alright, you know what we can do? We can actually say that as we're writing in our code, we will be able to see the view update pretty instantaneously over here in our storyboard. And the way that we're going to do that is by using a keyword IB designable. And you know, there is actually another keyword too that we can use that is for interface builder. That's what the IB stands here in front of IB designable. So for these properties down here, accuracy and line width, we can use the keyword IB inspectable. So then if we want to change the values, we can change them in the interface builder, just like we could change other values in there. Alright, so there are those. And now what we can do is we can go on, and we need to decide what method we're going to put all of this code into. Well, you know, according to a video that I watched that was from the 2014 WWDC conference, that was showing some new features in Interface Builder, and it's also, by the way, where I got some of this code. It was suggested to put all of this code for setting up the view into the layout subviews method. So let's go ahead and select this method, and then what we're going to do is we're going to start off by calling the super, and then we can put in the rest of our code. And just to save time, I'm going to actually copy the code, and I'll copy kind of one part at a time, and then I'm going to paste it in, and we'll discuss the code here. Alright, so what we're going to do is say if the background ring layer, which is the light gray ring, if it's nil, or if there's no background ring layer, then we're going to create an instance of CA shape layer, and we're going to set up a rectangular space in order to put the circle in. And when the circle is actually drawn a little bit later here in the code, we need an inset so that the stroke, which is the line that goes around, is not going beyond our view. So we have the inset set up here, and then we're going to create a path using UI Bezier path, and this is going to allow us to draw a circle in our rectangular space. Alright, so then we're going to access some properties here on background ring layer. So here's the path, and then the fill color is going to be nil because we don't want to color inside of our circle. Then the line width is set to the line width property up here, and the color of the ring is this color that is, it's a light gray that is indicated by a shade of white and an alpha of 0.3. And then we have to add our sublayer. In terms of the frame size here, we're just setting it to the bounds of the layer. Alright, so this is the first part here. This is the first ring. Now to add the second ring, we're going to use very similar code. So let me grab that, and then I'm going to paste it in here. And we just need to paste it right below here. And right after I pasted that in, I see that the orange circle, or the orange ring rather, is going all the way around the circle. So we're not just yet factoring in the 0.67 in which the ring would go around only 67% of the way, but we'll get to that in just a second. So for now here we say if the ring layer is nil, or if there's no ring layer, then we're going to create an instance of CA shape layer, and here we're going to do something very similar up like we did up here with the rectangle, the rectangular space and the inset values. Then we need to get the UI Bezier path, and you can see down here below that we have pretty much the same code as what we had up at the top, except for the fact that we have changed the stroke color so that we get an orange color that is a part of the Percentally Pro 2 app. Now, there are a couple extra lines of code here though. We're accessing properties for the anchor point and transform, and this will allow us to have the stroke line start up at the top and go around in a clockwise fashion. Then we add the sublayer, and the frame is going to be set to the bounds of the layer. Alright, so now we need the orange ring to go around just the right amount. So let's just go down a little bit here. And so now we're going to say if the ring layer does not equal nil, we're going to access the stroke end. This is the end of the orange line. And we're going to set this to the accuracy, which is the 0.67. So now because we have the @IBDesignable keyword, we see that the orange ring has now just changed, and the orange ring is going to 67% of this circle. Alright, so that's pretty cool, huh? We're going to actually change this accuracy a little bit later on based on the data that was collected for a given session. So this is just an initial value just to make sure that we have everything working, and it looks pretty good so far just here in the storyboard, and I haven't even had to run the app yet. Alright, so let's move on here. You know, one thing that would be cool to see is just if we open the interface builder, how, let's go back to our view here, how we can see the accuracy and the line width in the interface builder because we use the @IBInspectable keyword. So if I just give ourselves a little more room, I could change the accuracy. Let's say I change it to 50 now. If I change it to 0.5 rather, now we see 50% of the circle that's being filled. I could also change the line width. We originally had 6.0. We could make this a little thicker, like 8.0, and we can see that now the line width has gotten thicker. Alright, but I think we'll just stick with our original values for now and leave it be. Okay. Alright. Now let's go to our ring view controller and we will add code there. We'll open just the regular editor, and what we need to do is we're going to have to add data source methods for our table view and for our collection view. Before we do that though, let me go back to the storyboard, and I need to see if the data source has been connected, and it has not. So I'm going to connect the data source for the table view, and then I also want to connect it for the collection view. So let's make sure I have that selected here, and now we can connect that to our view controller. Okay, so we have that all connected, and now we can go to our ring view controller, and I would like to add the table view data source protocol up here after we're inheriting from UI view controller. I'm also going to add the collection view data source. And this is going to give me an error until I satisfy the required methods for those protocols. So let's start off with a section for our UI table view data source. And I'm going to, like before, I'm going to copy and paste code and then just explain it. So what we have is just one row for our table view, and then we have a method cell for row at index path, and I see an error which we're going to figure out in just a second, but I created a constant here for the ring table view cell, and we need to dequeue the reusable cell with identifier on the table view. And even though I set up a cell identifier in the storyboard, this is looking for a constant that goes with that cell identifier. And since I have not already created that constant, I need to do that. So let me just grab some code here. And up here, before view did load, I'm going to put in the cell identifier for the table view, and then I also have it for the collection view, which we'll get to in just a moment. Okay, so now that error has been removed for this one line of code. And then we have this other method that is the title for the header. And this is just the title of the goal in which data was collected. So we have answered WH questions. All right, now let's create another section here for the collection view. Specifically the collection view data source. And let's get the methods here that we need. All right, here in terms of the number of items that we want in the section, we are just going to return 3 because we're going to have 3 data rings. Then for cell for item at index path, which is the similar method as cell for row at index path on the table view, here for the collection view, we are going to need to make sure that we're accessing the ring collection view cell type. because this is a custom cell with a custom class that I created. And then on the collection view, we're dequeuing the reusable cell with identifier. That's all set up because we have the constant up here for that cell identifier. And then we have to make sure that we downcast here for the ring collection view cell. So we don't have any errors here for this line of code. By the way, the errors that were shown before for our data source protocols, that error message has gone away as well. So now we've satisfied the required methods for the protocols. So back to this cell for item at index path method, I'm using a switch statement on index path.item, and then I'm switching on the different items here, item numbers, starting off with the first one, which is case 0, and then you see case 1 and case 2, rounding out our 3 data rings. And since this is a switch statement, we need to be exhaustive, and we have a default case here with default values. Now, for each one of these cases, I'm just providing data that would be used for the different labels and then also for the ring view. And remember, this is the orange ring that's going to go around in a circle based on the value that we set for the accuracy property. Alright, so here this would be the equivalent of 67%. Here this would be the equivalent of 100%, and here this is the equivalent of 80%. And those are just decimals that are float values. And then we have to make sure that we return our ring collection view cell. Alright, so with that, let's go ahead and build and run the app and see what we get. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So we have the rings. They look pretty good. We see that the orange ring is going around, which it looks like it's going around the correct percentage, the 67% here, 100% going all the way around in a full circle, and then 80% going up to here. However, we have a black background, and this is just the default background for the collection view. So let's go ahead and change that. I'm going to go back to my project and into the storyboard, and then I have the collection view already selected here. So let's just go over to Interface Builder and change the background from the default to white. Okay, now let's go ahead and build and run again and see what we get. And there we go. Now it looks just like what I wanted in the prototype app. It's showing all of the orange rings with the white background, and all of our labels are looking good, and this looks exactly like what I wanted. And this is something that I will be able to incorporate into the next update of my data collection app, Percentally Pro 2. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.